as I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye chodam sogi chonamba, chanchu bardu dagi dachuchi, dagi chonyen gere sonam Roll up and cheer Sangre Drupa Show.
Again, good morning everyone. Welcome. Very nice day. We have to learn to appreciate every small things in our life. Otherwise, since life is not easy, challenging in samsara, things doesn't go all the way, all the time, the way we want, and then our mind starts to think all the things that are not going well, and our mind can become more and more negative. And without knowing, then we end up in a very negative state of mind. Slowly. So therefore, we have to be appreciated and rejoice and grateful for every small good things that happen in our life. Even everything is not great, at least my health is okay. Even though my health is not best, at least it's okay. Being grateful, appreciated that your health. Being grateful, appreciated that we are still alive, that allow us to do things, certain things, that even though we might not be able to do everything that we wish to do, but at least it allows us to do certain things that we want to do. Everything we want to do, even many lifetimes you probably not possible, what you want to do. There's endless in your mind. Being grateful and appreciated that we have, nice weather, so many parts of the world doesn't have that, struggle with so many conditions. But right now, due to the lot of heat waves, wildfires, floodings, all these things that's happening. So, all over the different parts of the world. So anyway, so we have been going through this particular text or book by the Third Dalai Lama, and we are coming to the very end of that book. Probably 2 sessions or 3 sessions more, and then we complete that. And we are in a section where the author talk about the bodhisattvas practice. And bodhisattvas are those who have unconditional love, compassion towards every sentient being, even people who are not nice to them, not kind to them. Of course, it is easy for us to have love, compassion to people who are nice to us, who care us. It's very hard to feel compassion and loving for those who are not nice to you, your family, your friends, to other human beings, other sentient beings, who seem to be more cruel, unkind, mean. It's much more harder to feel love and compassion for such individuals. But bodhisattvas are those who can feel equal love and compassion for even those who are most mean and unkind. And of course, even not only that, then, who have developed what we call bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is, aspiration to achieve your highest potential, fully awakened state, so you can be greatest help benefit to all sentient beings equally, unconditionally, driven by that kind of true love and compassion. So that is the bodhisattva. So we are described here, his author is describing those practice. And within the practice of bodhisattvas, they are known as the six paramita, or practice of six perfection, which we finish, the practice of generosity, the practice of moral discipline, the practice of patience, the practice of joys, effort in virtues, the practice of meditative concentration, and the practice of wisdom. So those are the six practices that the bodhisattvas engage into to develop their own inner qualities and to be able to help and benefit more sentient beings, others more. So we just completed those six paramita, and we are in a section where he is describing about the four means. Also, this is four means of the bodhisattvas to help and benefit sentient beings. Four means of gathering the sentient beings and helping and benefiting them on temporary level and more I'm not remembering the right word, long-term help and benefit. Okay. So that is in terms of page, if we are on page number 28, if any of you have. And here it says, 4 ways of positively influencing others. So those are the one. The first is practicing generosity. Second is, giving encouragement with an inspiring, kind, gentle speech, and so forth. And then, helping, guiding them to engage into the bodhisattva's practice, to be more kind, to be more compassionate, to be more patient, to be more understanding, and to engage in such as those six bodhisattva practices, such as six paramitas. And not only encouraging others and inspiring others, but also engaging in practice what you teach others, what you try to encourage others. Not only you say you should be kind, but you try to practice kindness yourself. And being example and inspiring them to be more kind with your own example. Inspiring them to be more generous with your own examples by yourself engaging in practice. So those are the 4. So as we go through that. Here's with the motivation to attain enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So when you engage in such practice, such as those 4 means of helping sentient beings, the intention, motivation should always be the bodhicitta mind. And when your intention, motivation, bodhicitta mind, then this practice becomes also a practice. And as I mentioned, the bodhicitta means, out of greatest unconditional, unbiased, true love and compassion, driven, induced by those love and compassion, and then, wanting to be your best, wanting to achieve your highest potential, fully awakened state, so you can be even more help, more benefit to more sentient beings. So motivations. So that with that kind of motivations, then you engage in those 4 practice. Okay, the motivation should be bodhicitta as much as possible. For the bodhisattvas who have already reached certain level, that kind of intention motivations come spontaneously, naturally. They don't have to really, try to develop that mind. It is so natural to them. It's so spontaneous to them. It just comes. But for us who have not developed those realization, those feelings spontaneously, naturally, then we put effort trying to, even though, it's not effortless, but we try to put some effort in trying to generate, to set the right intention, the motivations. Trying to set the right intention, motivation for engaging in here, those practice. But that's the same with anything you do, in your life, in our life, we engage in different things. You are helping your partners when they need help. You are helping your children when they need help. Or you help your parents when they need help. You help your friend when they need help. You help your colleague when they need help. Or you help someone who needs help and you are able to do it. So, that we might be engaged in a different project, different activities to support, to help individual organizations and so forth. But before we engage every day, before we do that, trying to set the right intention, motivations of the bodhicitta. And when you set the right motivations, then whatever you are doing every day become a dharma, virtues. Not only dharma, virtues, it becomes bodhisattva practice. It becomes much more profound and much more meaningful. So those 4 are make offering in order to assembly and interact of students. So it is practicing the generosity. Practice the generosity. To gather other sentient beings through such practice, so that you can help them on a much more deeper level. You want to help them, to inspire them to be more kind, compassionate, patient, and engage in those bodhisattva practice. But sometimes they are not ready to hear that. Sometimes they are not ready to listen to your talk, your lectures, your suggestions, your advice, your opinion, whatever, even with sometimes good intentions. So, first way of trying to make them pay more attention is through the practice of generosity. Same with the animals, isn't it? You feed them and then they will come. And when they come, then you can teach them. If you want to teach them something, because you feel that it's good qualities that they could have, they could learn, it can be helpful. If you don't feed them, they wouldn't come. They wouldn't listen to you. But if you feed them, then they come more closer and they start to pay more attention. That's how you train your dogs, isn't it? By giving the treat. Without treat, I don't think it will be very difficult to train them. But that's what makes how you train, you are able to train with the treat, you know. Sit down and you give treat and they learn how to sit down. All of this. Similarly, it's not only the dog with human beings, like gifts. You know, isn't it? That's why someone forget to give, you know, gift on Christmas, birthday, whatever those different events, New Year, whatever different. Sometimes people get disappointed. Oh, he or she doesn't love me, or he or she doesn't care me. She didn't write me any card, didn't greet me, you know, didn't send any gift. So all this. So we human beings also in some way similar. So therefore, the first is to practice the generosity. You know, through practicing the generosity, you know, it helps us to bring more closer. So, and when you are closer, and when you have, you know, high regard, respect, then you are more open to listen to someone's advice. You are more open to listen to someone's suggestions, someone's teachings, talk, whatever that is. So that is for that purpose. And the reason here to do that is to help them to become better persons. So they can be more kind, more compassion, more patience, and so forth. With those bodhisattva's qualities and the practice. In that way, it helps them and it helps people around them. If in one family is very kind, compassionate person, then with that kind of compassion, it helps the families. On the other side, when someone is very angry all the time, it affects the family negatively. Family, friends, colleagues, when you come with that kind of negative energies, not only it is painful to you and it is miserable for you, but you bring that energy and everyone around you feel that energy. Everyone around you feel uncomfortable. Everyone around you feel unrelaxed. On the other hand, you come with that kind of really true, loving, kind, compassion, energy, then again, not only you feel good about yourself and your life and everything and will come, you bring that energy and even someone who is feeling really restless, feel that energy and they start to become more peaceful, calm. You bring that energy. Even you don't say anything, you bring that energy. Even though sometimes animals can feel that they were restless. And then someone with that kind of energy comes, they feel that energy and they start to become calm. They start to become less restless and calm. You know? And so therefore, having those inner positive qualities of the bodhisattvas and practice is really great help, benefit to oneself and to others. You know, and so therefore that is the way. Second qualities of practice here is show them a pleasant expression and speak to them gently. You know, so not only you try to, you know, practice generosity, you know, but also, you know, when you practice generosity or when you are there, you know, when you speak, try to speak kind, gentle, clear, and then in terms of physical expressions, smile instead of being grumpy. Instead of a grumpy face, you try to show smiling face. That can again uplift someone's mind just by seeing someone smile. Or someone might feel very bad because they saw someone be expressing very grumpy face. And then why is he so grumpy to me? Why is he showing this? And then again it can affect you negatively. And so again, there's nothing to lose by smiling. You can always smile. You don't need to buy. You don't need to spend money. You don't have to be rich to be able to smile. But so those are the qualities. Second, so first with generosity, and then speaking kindly, gently, and kind of giving encouragement and inspirations through your speech, so forth. Then the third, so that is that you are helping them more kind of temporarily, through your generosity and through your practice of being gentle and kind speech and smiling and so forth. But what you really want to help is really help them to be, better persons. Because if someone is better persons, it can change their life. Small generosity doesn't change their life. It helps them to reduce their pain for temporary. Someone is starving, you feed them for one day, they feel relieve that pain. But what about tomorrow? What about the rest of the life? Even they don't struggle with that. What about all other problems they have? And that they don't know how to deal with that. And because of that they suffer so much. So those help is help, but those become temporary. But if you can help someone to really transform their mind, to develop more wisdom, more loving kindness, more patience, that will be the tool that they will be carrying for their life. Once they have those tools in their life, they can encounter many challenges, difficulties, as in being in the samsara. At least they have the tool to deal with that. So you are able to provide them that tools. And so, therefore, that is where here. Teach them the Dharma. The Dharma here, meaning, the six perfection and so forth. And teach them how actually to practice it. So then, teaching them in whatever way, in terms of teaching them doesn't mean like in your position as a teacher, but as friends. Sometimes it can be as teachers, sometimes as a friend, colleagues, having those discussions, So basically, teaching them, the importance and the beneficial of the practice of generosity, the practice of moral discipline, the practice of patience, the practice of joyous effort in virtues, the practice of meditative concentration and wisdom, and the practice of true, unbiased, unconditional love, compassion, bodhicitta mind, and helping them, teaching them, inspiring them, encouraging them, to develop those qualities, those practices. And not only inspiring and helping them to develop those practice qualities, but inspiring, teaching, or sharing how to do that. How to do that. How to do that. If you don't know how to do that, then it's, I want to be patient, but I don't know how to be patient. I want to be kind, but I don't know how to be kind. In terms of cultivating those inner qualities, true kindness. I want to be wise with wisdom, but I don't know how to be that. So therefore, in whatever way that you can, with whatever skills, tools that you have access, to teach them, to inspire them, to encourage them to do that. But again, we don't force anyone to do that. That is the thing. We don't force someone to do that if they are not interested and if they are not ready for that. Even if you have the best intentions for them, because you really want to help them and you feel that this can be helpful and beneficial for them. So you have the good intention, but if they are not ready, you can't force them to do that. That is why Buddha gave his advice to his followers, the bhikkhus, and others, normally do not teach unless it has been requested. Do not teach unless it has been requested or unless you see special circumstances. In very special circumstances, sometimes you can teach even if it's not requested. But otherwise, Buddha himself, after his enlightenment, as 49 days he didn't teach until he was requested. And when he was requested, then he started to teach. And so as part of that traditions, when you do traditional teaching, then there is a request prayers before the teachings, and is to continue that traditions. And generally that is what, you don't just go and say, oh, I have this something and I want to, you should have this, and you just doesn't do that way. So anyway, so that was actually to practice. And fourth one, live and practice in according with the teaching you give. So if we are trying to help someone, through as a teacher teaching, or as a friend, giving some advice, suggestions, so as a colleague, as a Dharma practitioner, spiritual friend, different advice or suggestions, opinion, that whatever you give, as it says, then you try to live yourself and practice yourself. If you teach someone to be kind and compassionate, you whoever teach that, they should try to practice and live themselves kind and compassion. If you practice other to be generous, you try to live and practice to be generous. Yourself. If you teach others, to be less angry, more patient, you try to practice and live yourself to be less angry and more patient. And when you practice yourself, when someone practice what they preach, or what they suggest, or what they advise, then the person who's listening is more helpful. It sinks. They can connect that. They can feel it more. Otherwise, then they feel, it's all hypocrisy, You teach us to be kind, compassion, and you are so mean and cruel. You ask us to be generous, and you are so stingy yourself. You ask us to be patient, and you yourself is so angry persons. And so when you give that advice, it doesn't have a good. It has a lot of times opposite reactions. Opposite reactions, And so when that kind of opposite reaction, then it doesn't come. You are unable to help. Even you want to help, unable to help. Because they see there is some gap between what you say and what you do. If you say ask to be kind, compassionate, why can't you be kind and compassionate? If you are asked to be, forgiving, why can't you be forgiving? If you are asked to be, patient, why can't you be patient? So then that kind of, and there is a story, I think, which I kind of like it. Mahatma Gandhi. There's a story of someone, at Mahatma Gandhi's time, there was someone who had a child who was, taking too much sugar, and then, what do you call the right order. The cavity, it doesn't say specifically this problem, but he has teeth problem and other problems. So he took it to Mahatma Gandhi, or they went to see Mahatma Gandhi and said, ask the father to Mahatma Gandhi if you can help to give some advice, so my child can stop eating or have less of that because it's a problem to him. And Gandhi said, no, I cannot do that. But come after 1 week, So after 1 week, the father took the child to Gandhi, and then Gandhi then gave it, how bad the sugar is. You shouldn't take so much sugar, it's bad for your teeth and health, all this advice he gave. And the father was, if that was the advice, why did you give that day, Why did you say come 1 week later when you could have given same advice that day? And Gandhi said, I myself was eating sugar. So how can I ask him to do that when that would be, I asked him not to do when I myself is doing that. So he said, at least for 1 week I stopped. Now I can say to him, because I haven't been taking it for 1 week, so after and I think that is another good example of that, And you see that same with, Parents giving advice to children, doctors giving advice to the patients, and all of that is harder for the patient, is harder for the children, is harder for the students to take in those advice if those who are giving advice are not following the advice themselves. So then, then they react and they respond differently. When they see you are doing that and you are asking me or advising me not to do that, and so that is where here, so therefore, again, of course, especially for teachers and, and same that apply also as a parent. If you want to advise your children, you have to live the example as much as possible. If you do that, sometimes you don't have to say much. The children learn from that, observing. You don't have to say much. And even you do say a little bit something, they get it. They don't try to fight against it. But when they feel you are advising them to do something and you are not doing yourself, and then that is when they try to be more, confronting, and of course that could be same between two partners, so everyone's, if we live and practice what we ask others to do, then it becomes more beneficial, more helpful, effective. And I say the best way to inspire and help someone to engage in the practice, to develop such qualities, is to be the best example. To be the best example. And I personally also learned so much from my teachers, not from what they preach, but from observing how they respond, how they react to different situations, or how they live. Sometimes I feel like I got more from that than actually from really academically study knowledge. Of course, I learned so much, everything that I learned from them because of their kindness and from learning from them. Whatever small I know. But in terms of a lot of things that have almost like ingrained in some way, a lot of them, when I look back now, now I can see those are coming from that, being around them and their observations, and I think, so, and that is the best way to encourage, influence, inspire your children to be more kind, compassionate, patient, all of that. You try to practice yourself, live yourself. And sometimes you don't have to say much, they will learn by observing that, being around that. And if sometimes you need to say something, they will take in, because they know you practice that. They know you live that qualities, what you expect them of that particular practice, qualities, whatever that is. I think that is the best teaching is through example. And by example meaning you live and practice what you advise or you teach, what you expect others to do. So here is in every possible way, develop those four profound methods of benefiting others. So, whenever we get any opportunity, whenever we are able, whenever we have the opportunity, whenever we are able, then we try to engage in any of those four practice, profound method practice of helping benefiting others. And when we engage in those practice, always try to have the right intention, motivations. The intention, motivation is not to impress someone through your generosity. The intention shouldn't be the intention to practice the generosity and helping someone shouldn't be selfish motivations. So that you want to look you are a kind person, that you want to impress that you are someone who helps, who is kind, who is compassionate, or to show off that you have these abilities or resource to do that. But the motivation should be always, the bodhicitta mind. And with bodhicitta mind, it's not only the intention, motivation to help that one individual that you are helping with generosity, let's say, the first practice. Of course, you have you want to help because that person needs help, or that animals or any beings that need help. You have the capacity to help. You have the potential, the ability to help. And you really want to help because you feel them there and compassion. But not only that, not only the wish to help that person, but also to be able to help all sentient beings. That's where the bodhicitta comes. In terms of helping, you are helping one person, one animal, by feeding that. In actions, you are helping, benefiting one individuals, or two, or four, or five. But your intentions is, while I'm helping that, but by helping that, so that I can be helpful to all sentient beings. That is the bodhicitta motivations. If you don't have bodhicitta motivation, then it's just helping one person, then it's what your help is quite limited. Your intention is limited, your act becomes limited in that way. The potential is kind of limited. But act is the same, but when you bring that bodhicitta motivation, then the same actions, practice of generosity become much profound, much more, powerful, beneficial, Yeah. And it's everything is about training. Everything is about training. Training the mind. A lot of time we think is more to do external. It's not to do with external. Whether you are generous or not, it is not about how much you have or how little you have. It is your state of mind. There are people who have so little, but who are much more generous than who are others who are so much and who cannot practice, who struggle with generosity. It's not about how much you have. It's about training the mind, the ability to let it go, the ability to give up, the ability to feel kind, compassion, and same things, being patient. It's not about whether there are people, it's not about if there are so many cruel people around you or not. It's more about your mental capacity. When someone has that practice, mental capacity and patience, they can live in an environment where, the being there might be very mean, unkind, and, aggressive and so forth, but still they have the ability to keep their mind calm, undisturbed by that. On the other hand, we can be living with an environment where people are more kind, compassionate, caring. But of course, even there are someone who's more loving, kind, caring, but there are moments when they lose their mind. In the moments, frustrated with something, disturbed by something. And in that moment, maybe they show that, and then someone who doesn't have patience, then they become very affected by that. And they become very upset and angry. So therefore, as Shantideva give the example of, you can live in an environment with full of bushes, thorny bushes, but you just wear a leather shoes and you can go anywhere without being harmed by that. It's not about whether this whole area is full of thorny bushes or not. It's about whether you have the shoes that can protect you from that or not. If you don't have that shoe that protect from them, the whole area doesn't have you thorny. There is one small part that is thorny and you can be hurt by that. One small area. And you didn't pay enough attention, mindful, and then you can be hurt by that. Same thing, when you have these protections of patience, your patient mind that you have developed through your practice, meditation, and if you have developed this patient mind, and you can live in an environment where it might be not so nice, kind people, but still you have this ability, the protection, not to be disturbed by that and agitated by that, your mind, to be able to keep your mind calm, peaceful. And as I mentioned before, when you don't have that patient mind, when your mind is, easily disturbed and agitated, you don't need another human being to disturb your mind, to get upset and angry. You don't need another animal to disturb and angry. Anything can disturb your mind. The weather can disturb your mind. It's too hot, it's too cold, it's too sunny, it's too windy, or it is, too cloudy, or not cloudy. So all these anything can make you disturbed, upset. Because your mind is not in that good state. Your mind is in not calm, peaceful state, and then anything, Someone shut the door and you are upset. Someone opened the door, you are upset. Small things. Doesn't have to be any serious anything. Anything insignificant, very small thing can make you upset and disturbed. And it's not because the situation is sad, it's because of our state of mind. On the other hand, when you have more developed such practice and patient mind, even the very serious things, you can take it more lightly and not be so disturbed by that. You can handle it with much more ease without being disturbed. So that is what it is, training the mind. That is where the training the mind is key. And all we are learning about whole our life in Buddhism is about training the mind. And of course, learning is one thing, but practicing is another thing. So what you learn, you have to practice as much as possible. You know. If you don't practice, then again, as Shantideva said, you know, what is the usefulness of learning all this knowledge about which medicine help what? How much meditate when you get sick? Which medication help? What treatment help? And how much you need? What kind of treatment? How much of you then learn all of that? But if you don't really take the treatment, it's not going to change your situation, health situation. Even you have all this knowledge. But you learn the knowledge and then you implement it, then you practice it. And then, you know, just as you can cure of illness by taking the right medications, the right treatment, the right cure, in the same way, you know, practice, by applying those practice, you know, then we can heal from all these disturbing negative emotions and be free from all those disturbing negative emotions and develop those more positive emotions. So I think I will stop here. Any questions? Anyone has any questions? Yeah, ma'am.
I wanted to share an experience I had. I discovered a practice, which was to walk with infinite patience. And I just began to do that in different places because it was helping me. And then once I was at a cafe where I did it, and I looked up, and a person who I'd never spoken to, I don't think I'd ever even seen them before. There they were, walking across the floor, doing that practice. And as I watched them, I could feel the power of it. And it's like it was a sharing that I had no intention of doing at all. It's just the thought that just doing this stuff is a way of sharing it, a powerful way of sharing it. Yeah.
Rachel has a question. Anyone else have a question? I have one after Geshe. I have one after Rachel.
Good morning, Geshe. You mentioned that your teachers taught you as much by their example, and I wondered if you could give us an example of that so we could learn something from your teachers of like how to be in the world, and that's my question.
Well, you know, I think there are so many one of my teachers spent more than 10 years in prisons for no fault, just because he was a teacher, a monk teacher. So anyway, in 1959, when they came, they arrested all the lamas, all the teachers, you know, and imprisoned them because the communist government or officials believed they were spreading the poisons because they believed religion was poisonous. That is what they said, you know, when the Lama met Mao Zedong, he said religion is the poison. And so from his point of view is, so these are the teachers are the one who is spreading the poisons. So therefore they have to be arrested and, imprisoned and tortured, So, my teacher was saying, so many people die through the starvations, at that time in the prisons. And they had to go in the field to walk during the daytime, and they would feed very small things, and so that was a lot of people died of starvation. And because some people started to eat the bugs, just to keep themselves alive in the field. But my teacher says he never ate that, So anyway, that is a lot of hardship that they went through. And after some years, he was able to escape. After the releasing Tibetan, he was able to escape in India. But all this, more than 30, 40 years I've studied, hardly hear any anger or any negative anger or hatred and all this feeling. Never mentioned about, never saw that. So again, these are the someone who have gone through personally. Of course, if you talk about his families, his teachers, all of that, they have been also imprisoned, they have been tortured, all of that. If you look from as a countries, your citizens, like the monasteries have been destroyed, things that you believe in have been destroyed, taken away, And then on personal level, close level, his own families, teachers, and he himself went through all of that, but never mention, never show or feel that kind of anger or hatred in that, Those are the examples that, we learn from just observing that, and also he never wasted any food, and again, that could be because the impact in the prisons went to starvations. And I collected that kind of habits, So, and sometimes I overeat it because I don't want to throw it, Of course, we have discussion whether that is the best or not, So there are many things like that, Also, he was very careful about how we spend the money, Even 1 cent, 2 cents. At that time, I didn't understand. I was one of his students. He has, over 500-600 students, and I was that who was kind of going to the bank sometimes, devoting or withdrawing money for him, or sometimes shopping. And even 1 cent he would calculate, and even if 1-2 cents, he said, what happened to that? At the very beginning, I didn't understand. Feel a little bit stingy, But later, I understood how negative karma it would be to misuse your teacher's money, even if it's 1 cent, from one point of view. So he protected any chances of misusing that. And secondly, all he spent everything for making offerings to the monks. Not only, he sponsored the Dalai Lama's teachings, and during those teachings, offering tea to everyone who came to the teachings, in one of those Kavachala in Amalwadis, and then he sponsors and make an offering to all the monasteries, Sherab, Bunkan, and every. So again, he used those. He didn't waste it for his own. That, but he used it to practice generosity, to make offerings. Whatever he had. So those are the things that Lord. These are just few examples that he didn't say much about those things, but we see them, observe that and saw that, and that has a strong influence in your mind or your thinking, your shaping of yourself in so many things. Yeah. You had a question?
Not anymore, but Geshe, which teacher was this? You have incredible teachers.
Well, Chancellor Lawson said that he passed away, and his reincarnation is now in the outside life. Again, I'm just sharing one story of one teacher, because many of you know Lamrim Buddhist, and also, previous meditation Buddhist, there are many things.
The only thing that I was going to ask Geshe is the 4 ways of gathering others. It's you said, right, I heard any sentient being. So even when we are, for example, training our pets, right? Training our pets to not kill when it's their natural inclination, to share, to be kind, to be gentle, and then also, reciting mantras. That's all. Is that also a way?
Yes. Yeah, sure. As I mentioned before, even when you do, which you do every day, feeding your pets or animals or at home, whatever, but trying to have set the bodhicitta motivations is important. So it is become much more profound than just feeding one being for a few days. Okay, we can do the dedications.
So we're not able to screen share. Would you like to lead us through?
No, you can do it. I'm probably So even though we are unable to recite ourselves, maybe reciting, we just follow it. It's more of the dedication prayer, whether you say in word or not, but it's sending from your heart. So that is the thing.
I can do it from memory if you want.
Yeah, I can too. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel, bodhicitta, that has not arisen, arise and grow. And may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Gamri Rawe Kurwe Shinkandir Pendam Dewa Malu Jungwe Jenre Zingwa Tenzing Gasui Jape Sute
เทวาดุ Tengyurchi
ขออนุญาตนะคะ Geshe 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 ขออนุญาตนะคะ
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.